Portugal 3, Turkey 0. Another really entertaining game at Euro 2024 and one of the most emphatic performances we have seen from this Portugal side. I was a little bit critical of them in the first game, particularly the tactical setup, but in this game they did not have such issues. Roberto Martinez made some key changes and we are going to take a look at them. It starts off with the formation and the personnel, the 4-3-3 shape rather than the back three, with Palhinha coming into midfield. This was a key change, but also the change of Nuno Mendes moving to left back rather than left centre back. This brought about a much more controlled and balanced performance from this Portugal side, and like I said, I think this is one of the best performances we have seen so far at this tournament. They were too hot to handle for this Turkey side. Starting with playing the ball out from the back, particularly in the early stages of the game, as you would expect, Turkey were making it competitive, putting the pressure on, trying to ask questions of Portugal. But from quite early on, Portugal had the answers. So Turkey would rotate initially to more of a 4-2-2 shape, being reasonably aggressive, having players engaged high enough up the pitch. But Portugal had quite a simple solution. Palhinha would drop into the back three, Bruno would come in here, Cancelo in here. Suddenly Portugal have too many players in the first phase, it's easy for them to play out from the back. Turkey couldn't really get pressure on the ball, and quite quickly Portugal were able to move the ball towards the first phase, and the question now becomes, how are they going to set up on the ball and can they break Turkey down? First of all though, before we figure out how to break Turkey down, we need to know how Turkey is setting up. And they're actually, despite initially being in a 4-2-3-1, they're actually going to change to more of a back five, with one of the midfielders dropping deep alongside the centre-backs, and Kokcu is going to come into midfield with Calhanoglu. And then the two wingers are going to drop a little bit deeper, like so, and a solo striker. So it's basically a 5-4-1, or it could become a 5-2-3, depending on the placement of the wingers. But this shape quickly allowed Portugal to take control. Very early in this game, Portugal got their foot on the ball and said, okay, we're not here to take part, we're here to take over. We are going to dominate this ball and we're going to attack you, really. That is what Portugal looked to do in this game. But again, they've done this using a different shape to what we saw last time out. This was quite an aggressive approach from Portugal in terms of they pushed a lot of men forward very early in the move. So you see Palhinha and Vitinha would drop just in front of the centre-backs, creating almost a box shape here. Bruno Fernandes is then going to be given the licence to go much higher. Bernardo Silva, of course, from the right wing is going to move inside, and Cancelo is going to move up, although they would obviously rotate, we'll come back to that. But also Nuno Mendes on the left-hand side. At times he could drop in to form a 3-2 shape to provide that extra man and drag Turkish players out, but also a lot of the time he was given the licence to get forward, get round and support the attack, leaving Portugal with this 2-2 shape, or this box shape, at the base of the midfield, kind of trusting these players to build possession. And the reason you can do that is because they are all comfortable on the ball, but Vitinha in particular, absolutely brilliant. He was very good in the first game and was a close man of the match for me with Bruno Fernandes. Bruno edged it with his creativity. Vitinha in this game again put in another top performance and was absolutely quality from start to finish, and he deserves a lot of plaudits. But what I really liked about this Portugal side was just the balance they had all over the pitch, apart from the right hand side, but we'll come back to that. But I loved how they asked different questions of the Turkey defence. You see Bruno Fernandes, for example, 1 minute would come short into these areas to get the ball into his feet, and then in the same move 7 seconds later he's going to go in behind and stretch the opposition defence. Now, even if he doesn't get the ball on either of these occasions, what it does is it just asks questions. As a Turkish centre-back, you're starting to think, well, am I meant to hold a high line and follow Bruno Fernandes into these areas? Or am I meant to drop deep so he can't spin in behind? It just starts to ask questions, and they're difficult questions to answer, particularly when it is a quality player like Bruno Fernandes. And this is why Portugal had a lot of control and a lot of attacking threat in this game, because they've got this 4 shape at the back, which means they've got a lot of players moving forward, but those players moving forward were complementing each other really well with different bits of movement. Down the left-hand side, for example, we could see Mendes starting a little bit deeper initially, and at times Rafael is able to go 1 versus 1 up against the fullback. Isolate him, take him on, that's exactly what you want from Rafael. He is brilliant in these areas, although he needs to stop the diving because he's now going to miss the next match because of it. But that's what you want, someone who is going to be dangerous, threatening, attack his man. Perfect. But what you also need is a bit of unpredictability, someone who can get up in support of him and give him something a little bit different. And that's what Nuno Mendes brought to this side by being at fullback rather than at centre-back. He offered that extra running capability into the final third, and again it just makes it more difficult to deal with defensively. You don't quite know what you're dealing with. Is Nuno Mendes going to be running in behind, kind of underlapping? Is he going to be overlapping, allowing Rafael to come inside? It becomes really difficult to predict, and we actually saw it for the first goal. The way that this Portugal side kind of moved together down the left-hand side, asked questions of the defence, put the ball into the box and scored. it was really good, effective attacking play down the left-hand side. I just quickly want to interrupt the video because I've realised I keep talking about all these great games at the Euros, yet some of you may not even be able to watch the matches depending where you are in the world. Until now, that is. Thanks to today's video sponsor, Surfshark VPN, you guys can now watch the Euros from literally anywhere in the world. You see, Surfshark VPN is a VPN provider, which allows you to change your digital location to anywhere on the planet. So I could be here, then I can be here, then I can be here, it doesn't matter. No matter where I am, as long as I've got my VPN, I can move myself to different places, meaning that I can watch all of the Euros matches, I can watch all of the highlights, I can watch the full games back, using Surfshark VPN, again from literally anywhere in the world. On top of that though, it also protects you online. It protects your digital profile. It's like having that Pepe performance that we saw last night, but for you, on the internet, it protects you from cyber attacks, it protects all your passwords and your online data and security. And then on top of that, it also stops geo-blocking. So you know those annoying programs on Netflix, Disney+, things like them, which you can only watch from certain places. Guess what? Again, with Surfshark, that's no longer a problem because you can change your location with one click of a button. And again, you're anywhere in the world, so you can watch whatever you want on those services. And like I said, Surfshark VPN have kindly sponsored today's video, and now using the discount code AJAnalysis, you can get some exclusive offers. So go check out the link in the description down below, use Surfshark VPN, you won't regret it. It also looked pretty good in the middle. I mean, I think it's always going to when you've got Bruno Fernandes in the heart of the team, in these areas looking to pick the ball up. He's always going to create for you. But also the fact that Ronaldo could occasionally drop off the centre-backs, get that extra touch in and keep the ball moving. Again, Portugal done this very, very well. But also down the right-hand side as well, there was definitely a threat. I felt there was more of a threat than what we saw in the last game. There seemed to be more interchanging between Cancelo and Bernardo Silva than what there was when we saw Dalot on the right wing in the last match. A bit more just fluidity to the way that they moved, perhaps had a better understanding of each other's game. It allowed Bernardo at times to come inside, Cancelo could overlap. It could also happen like the other way around as well. Cancelo could invert into here, Bernardo could pull wide. My only concern really with the right side of this attack is actually the 1-versus-1 threat and the capabilities. Bernardo, when he gets the ball out wide, looks a little bit stuck. He doesn't really want to take on the fullback. So that would still be a slight concern for this Portugal side. But when you get runners around him, it's less of an issue. And the attack had a nicer balance in this game. You had the 1v1 threat of Rafa Leão, you had the creativity of Bruno Fernandes, kind of the ball retention of Bernardo Silva, and then the poacher instincts up front with Cristiano Ronaldo. It was a really nice balance, and I felt that it worked really nicely for Portugal. It was much better from Roberto Martinez. He deserves a lot of credit for what Portugal done on the ball, the changes that he made, but also from a defensive point of view as well, because there was a key change quite early in this game, and for me it was actually that which set the tone for such a good Portugal performance. I've said that a few times this tournament. A team might win by 3 goals, 3-0 in this case, and I'm talking about the defensive side being good, which is a little bit odd. But I felt that Roberto Martinez made a tactical mistake early on, but rectified it quite quickly, and that's a sign of good management. It looked a little bit like this, so Turkey would try and play out from the back in their traditional 4-2-3-1 shape through the pitch like this, and Portugal had a slightly odd way of approaching this. You see, Palhinha would become a solo pivot on Cocu. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Vitinha would then move high in midfield here, and Bruno Fernandes would move high as well. Again, there's nothing really wrong with that. We're going to see Rafa Leão high on the left-hand side. Happy days. But this is where it got a little bit weird, because Ronaldo would then take up a position really heavily on the left-hand side here. You know, not kind of central as a striker. He would pretty much go and stand on the right centre-back, and this created a slight imbalance for Portugal, because the other problem they had was that the back four didn't want to come particularly high on the press. They wanted to be 2v1 here. They didn't want to go 1v1 with the centre-backs. But also Cancelo was being forced back. Now the issue that this created was that Turkey had the spare man. With Bayindir in goal, but also the centre-back. They had the spare man. And this made life really difficult for Bernardo Silva in particular, because he was left with this sort of in-between role where he's dealing with the full-back, but also the centre-back. But because Portugal aren't overly intense, despite being high, they're not that intense. Turkey had a bit of time on the ball, which meant they could find this free player. So the ball could go backwards, and then you could go out to him, or you could move the ball into midfield, and then move the ball out here. Turkey had some real success with this in the opening stages, and it was a very effective way for them to move the ball forward. Because, of course, the left-back, who, by the way, is a really good player, keep an eye on him, He's able to drive forward with the ball, but Cancelo can never really go and engage him. And like I said, Diaz was a little bit hesitant to go towards him because he doesn't want to leave Pepe isolated at the back. It did cause some problems for Portugal, and that's why in the first 20 minutes Turkey were quite competitive in the game. They were offering something going forward. But Roberto Martinez done a really good job of quickly snuffing that out because he makes a key tactical change. And what this change does is it improves Portugal from a defensive point of view. And I was saying this about England the other day. When you improve from a defensive point of view, particularly with a high press, you win the ball back a lot higher up the pitch, which completely changes the landscape of the whole football match. The whole football match changes if you can press well and win the ball high up the pitch. Because as Portugal start to win the ball higher, Turkey physically can't get out from the back, so therefore they have less possession, Portugal have more possession, and become more creative. So that's why this is a key part of their game. Being better defensively allowed them to flourish on the ball. Time for me to stop rabbiting on. What was actually the change that they made? Well, basically, he was really brave, and he committed an extra player forward to the press after around 25-30 minutes into the game. Now, when this ball started to come out here to this area to the left back, Bernardo was still in a similar sort of position, but now Cancelo was given the license to go out and challenge this ball. He was given the license to step forward, be aggressive on the press, and this meant that there was now no free Turkey players. And if they could play this ball and kind of flick it on under pressure, Diaz was also now given the license to be aggressive. Now this is risky stuff, right? Because it does mean you're leaving Pepe a little bit isolated at the back, and he's not the quickest by any means. But it was risky, it was brave, but it was high risk, high reward, it was bold, and it paid off for Portugal. Because Diaz and Cancelo were suddenly able to win the ball in these areas. Suddenly, on goal kicks, Turkey don't really have the free man, which means they overturn possession quite a lot. Portugal can win the ball higher, sustain attacks, control the ball, kind of push and probe in different areas. And like I said, for me, it was that defensive change which really kicked them on a gear. And it's what impressed me the most. The fact that out of possession they were a bit more aggressive, combine that with the fact that in possession they were much more balanced. It was a really good Portugal performance. A slight concern over creativity still. I know they won 3-0, so that sounds crazy to say. But 2 of the goals are kind of given to them, right? Obviously, you've still got to take the chances. The Portugal probably still need a little bit more raw creativity in the final third. But ultimately, if they continue with this sort of tactical approach, being balanced and aggressive, they'll probably be fine. And they will score plenty of goals at this tournament, and they will go far. So it's a really good day for Portugal. It looks much better for them now than what it did after the first game. The balance looks much nicer. Roberto Martinez just has to keep building upon it, and so do the players. But yeah, in terms of today, they were very good. They deserved their win. So yeah, that's all I've got to say for today's video. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Who was the man of the match? What was the big difference of Portugal in this game compared to the last? And how far can Portugal go this summer? Let me know what you think, but apart from that, we are finished. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you have enjoyed it. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.